Frank this evening. Welcome, both of you. I'm excited to have you here. Susan, I'm going to share a short bio of.
Uh-oh.
She just exited the building.
I'm like, where'd she go?
Oops. Wrong button.
Yes, the bio. Yeah, she will be coming back on air. I just gotta wait for her to come back in, so I'm not 100% sure on what just happened then. But while you're there, would you like to talk about yourself? Tell us about who you are.
Well, go ahead.
Well, now I'm a retired police officer and detective, and I'm a Reiki master, massage therapist for the last dozen years, and I also do cranial fascial therapy.
I don't know. I just received my AAS in robotics automation. I am kind of a jack of all trades. Ida has returned. I think your mic is off.
No, it's on.
She's just coming back in.
Can we start over, please?
Absolutely.
Good evening. My name is Aida Farhat. Welcome to Conscious Heart Solutions. Tonight, I have my guest, Susan Long, and Frank. Frank, what is your last name? I apologize.
Frank Emmart.
Okay. I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Both are part of the Super Soldier program. I'm going to share a short bio and then allow them to elaborate their experiences and who they are and the type of work that they do together. Susan and Frank are divine counterparts and psionic super soldiers who have been on over 12 contracts together. They met as small children where they were trained for psionic warfare and multidimensional battle. They have worked with what is known as the Dark Fleet, Nacht Waffen, and Solar Warden. Neither have had regression to obtain their independent memories, although they both are able to retrieve on their own. They are Licht Soldaten. Am I pronouncing that right?
Licht Soldaten.
Okay, Licht Soldaten. They have recalled memories of Schule, MDF, and on the Mars colony. They have memory of experiences in what's referred to as jump rooms, also Pegasus programs, or aka Stargate, as well as the Dolphin School. They both have memory of lifetimes on other planetary systems that they were not part of projects and programs. Again, welcome you both. I appreciate your patience and sharing your bio. I'm not going to say much more. I want to open it up to both of you and share with us or elaborate more on exactly what a super soldier is, what does it mean to be divine counterparts, and how did you become aware of knowing that you two were part of a bigger experience of super soldier programs and my lab and so forth. So
Thank you, Ida. I'm glad to be here. I know we both are glad to be here.
I'm very glad that you're both here, and I appreciate it. I mean, I've been following, well, especially Susan, for some time on Facebook, so I'm familiar a little bit with y'all's story, and I've watched you on Dan Winters, which is, you know, a bigger platform, and I appreciate listening to your experiences. So I'm very thankful and feel honored to have you on. So please go ahead.
You want to start with the like one of my first memories of Frank was somewhere between 5 and maybe 8, and I got picked up on a helicopter and taken to an aircraft carrier, and the room that they had us in, I don't know if you've ever been on a naval ship, but everything's gray inside. You know, it's just a plethora of gray, and it looked like one of those corrugated storage containers that we were in. They had a classroom, like it was like makeshift, like they dropped it on the deck or something, or they jumped us someplace else. Because I remember sitting in an old, well, they still have those on military bases. Those one peace school chairs, and that's when. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Can I first ask, just so for the audience, so my audience may not be too learned when it comes to super soldiers and so forth. So if you guys can just, or one of you or both of you can just share a little bit about what does it mean to be a super soldier and to be divine counterparts, and then we can go into more.
That's where we're trying to get into the first meeting where we found out.
Sorry. Okay. I wasn't. Yeah. Sorry about that. Okay.
Well, in the
tell them what you heard when they were flying you there.
When I was being flown to this location, I'm honestly, the more I think about it, the more it looks like it's actually LOC, which is Lunar Operations Command. It was in what looked like Susan said, is something like a corrugated shipping container of some kind, where they had a classroom, and in this classroom, well, I guess on the trip there, let's start there. There were two officers or guardsmen or military personnel that were transporting me there, and the one guy was like, hey, you know, what's with the kid or whatever, and he's like, oh, this one's gonna meet his soulmate or whatever in the Licht Soldaten program, and kind of started talking about that. And I don't think they knew I was really listening. I think they actually thought I was kind of knocked out, because they usually do that. They bring you there, you know, under some kind of beta wave or sedated. And
Sure.
I was kind of coming out of it, and I don't think they realized. And then he's like, well, I guess they noticed that I was awake. And then he's like, oh, well, it looks like you know, it's not every day that you get to go meet your soulmate, you know. And when we got there, we get into this classroom, and I don't know, there weren't many children there. Honestly, it wasn't a very big class. It wasn't maybe it was just a briefing. I'm still trying to recover the full detail of this entire memory, but the one thing that stands out the most is that Susan was actually sitting in the front of the class, and I was actually the row behind her and across from her. And I noticed her right away, and I was like, wow, you know, she's really beautiful, you know. And I don't know, we were probably 7-ish or something, and she just looked back at me like she just had her nose in crap, and just like what is the matter with you kind of look. And I was like, I didn't get it. It didn't make any sense to me. And I was like, oh, well, can she hear me? And she turned around and looked at me again. And I was like, you can hear me. Because I was thinking it. I wasn't saying it.
Sure.
And yeah, and she's just like,
yeah. So I was like, he can hear me. And I was like, because basically I was thinking that, why is he talking out loud like that? That's so ignorant, you know? And
love it.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
And then I realized, because I was used to hearing everybody else, and I have to shut that noise off, and it's still like that, where, you know, I have multiple layers of blocking things, because I don't want to hear what everyone else has to say in their head, because it's usually frivolous ridiculousness.
Yeah, I was just so thrilled that she could actually hear me. So you could just, I don't know, at one point she kind of turned around, it's like, you know, just stop it, you know, because because this is obvious that we couldn't turn it off. It just kept, the channel was just wide open, and it was just probably the most exciting thing ever, honestly.
That's pretty, well, that is fascinating. I mean, just listening to the short story about it is pretty awesome.
And the thing about this is that, you know, we both have this memory. We both had this congruent memory. We both remembering, you know, the details of the room, the transport was a little different. I don't know if she got there through a jump room or whatnot. Because she was already there when I got there. So she was most definitely there first.
I just know it was those rooms they put us in felt cold, you felt drugged, and you wish you had your blankie, you know.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've recovered substantial amounts of memories that they've all been congruent. I mean, right. Memories of castles, memories of different types of SRA that had taken place. And we won't really go into that, but yeah, I mean, it's all congruent. And last summer, because we trigger memories in one another on a pretty normal basis. So
okay, so would you be willing to share a little bit, like, what are these different, like, what's Nacht Waffen, what's some of the what are the different? I mean, I'm familiar with some of it, but not to the extent that you guys are aware. I mean, I just haven't dived that deep. So,
well, the thing is, we don't know if it's our bloodline or not, but a lot of other people remember having altars, and I don't know if it was just our generations, because even though we're split in time now, when we worked together, we were always the same age, or Frank was actually older than me, because I remember one time he was in his late 50s and I was maybe 20, and he came to rescue me off. They portaled a whole bunch of us off a planet that had several rings on it, and there was a lot of asteroids in the rings. And we just watched from an observation deck, and it basically looked like the asteroid just tore the planet apart. So we were lucky to get off.
Yeah, there's a lot of time displacement wrapped up inside of this. And what's really interesting about this is that a lot of the time displacement technologies have actually just recently been declassified. Now, I don't know if they have the patents available for you to actually go out and build all the stuff by yourself, but I know that the implications of it and some of the patents have actually been declassified. And let's just put it this way: they don't give you a patent if the technology doesn't work. Period. It doesn't work that way.
I would agree with that, absolutely. Well, there's a lot of patents, we know that, or a lot of technology that is patented that has been withheld for so long. They don't want it. When you hear about like the likings of, what's his name? Randy Kramer.
Yes.
So we are aware, when I say we, meaning those of us that have memory, and I'm not here to talk about my story, of course not. I want to hear what you have to say. You guys have dived into this much deeper than I have. But I do keep kind of on the outskirts a little bit, like up to par with certain stuff, because there's so much, it's so big, but I admire people like yourself that have taken the time to dive deeper and get more perspective on your experiences so that you could share it with us. And I appreciate that. So I don't want to talk too much. I want to hear your stories and what it is. I'm just trying to keep some structure in it where we can build up to, how did you guys become aware that you two were divine counterparts and that you were part of this super soldier program? What happened separately and what brought you together? Let's start there. Like you had an awakening. Go ahead.
I wouldn't call it an awakening because I never really forgot much. I just remembered more. But since I was a police officer and a detective, I was out there actually doing a violent and dangerous job. And then I remember my spouse at the time, who's passed away, asked me if I'd had death dreams yet, which, he's come back and apologized for being a handler. But after he mentioned that, I started having nightmares of being in firefights with Aryan-looking Nazis, people that what you would think of as a Nazi, very Aryan-looking people. And I remember waking up in bed and I'd been shot in in the shoulder and in the thigh on this side. And I still have pain in this shoulder, right shoulder, and my thigh. And I guess they were mortal injuries for whatever I was in up there, because I woke up in my bed in that firefight. Because they would physically take us and regress us to whatever age they wanted. Because I remember being a police officer and getting taken up there, because I was drunk one night, and it was after my husband had passed away. And so I was pretty drunk, because I was very sad.
She was belligerent, actually.
Yes, I was quite belligerent. Yeah. And but I was home by myself, so what difference does that make? But anyways, I guess I went to bed, and I woke up, and there was all these assholes, and I was on a ship swinging and kicking at everyone, and they tried to, and I was screaming, "How dare you kidnap me?" And then they brought Frank in and said, "Well, maybe we'll calm you down." And they're like, "Well, she must be your wife. She hates you too," because I tried to punch him in the face. I didn't remember him until I was sober. The next day.
Like, yep.
Yeah, this is one of the many congruent memories that we've had, actually.
I was very angry. I was there.
Very angry.
Because I was like, these you know, they won't even let me grieve in peace, where they're ripping me out of the here and now and putting me into, you know, I was pretty pissed off. But
wow.
Well, I wasn't happy with
I'm
the situation he had going on here.
Yeah, everything
This
that
is-
you're saying, Susan. And
yeah.
Yeah. Well, they don't give you a chance to
I mean,
yeah.
I mean, even some of the here and now stuff, like I remember, I don't know how this works, but I remember seeing Veronica there, and I was like, hey, sister, because she was a police officer too, so she's automatically my sister. And she was wearing a white smart suit, but that wasn't Nacht Waffen, or I think that was Solar Warden, because they took us into German programs first. We think that would have been Nacht Waffen and Dark Fleet. And then you get sold to contracts to the other one. Like, they call these contracts, but we didn't sign up for any of this stuff. And I'm sure they used our love against each other, because we would refuse to work without the other one. So when he got pulled up and I was grieving my late husband, he's like, "Screw you, I'm not working. Where is she? I'm not working until you bring her."
Yeah. And this has happened, like, this is not something that, you know, we just suddenly just up and remembered, you know, recently. This is something that's been happening throughout our lives. You know, when I was a child, you know, just at age 3, I used to get dropped off at like a daycare at a Catholic church. Like they held a daycare in the basement or whatever. I was terrified of going there, and I always lost time. I always lost time. I could never remember what happened. And later on, what really got me was that when I was in like 1st and 2nd grade, the school decided that they needed to put me into the special education program, even though I was pretty much a straight A student. I mean, granted, it's 1st and 2nd grade, so I mean, you're just a little kid, you know. So whoopee-doo. But what we later found out is that was their excuse to extract us from the school whenever they wanted to. Mm-hmm. Because if we were in the special education program, that wasn't something that was monitored as closely. So we could go on a field trip, right, with a couple of guys in black suits in some black car or a white van or a black van in some cases, and we'd be back in less than an hour.
Well, that's interesting that you say that, Frank, because I've heard, I mean, through, I've come across information where they use these types of special ed or summer camps or, different activities for children. They mm-hmm. claim that's what's, it's up front, and then behind the scenes, there's something very different taking place, especially with the Catholic Church. We know that. We know that they are involved in a lot of these different mind control, MK Ultra programs, and
absolutely, yeah. I mean, we I remember in 2nd grade getting pulled to the office, and I guess my parents were there in this meeting or whatever, and they had the documentation, and there were a couple of what looked like some men in black suits kind of characters, with their wingtip shoes and their hats and everything. And they, on the documentation, I couldn't really make a lot of it out or whatever, but they actually had performed an IQ test on me earlier on in life. I think I was 7 or 8 years old or whatever. And they had me at 163 IQ. I was just a little kid. I didn't even know what that meant at the time, so it really didn't even make any sense to me then. But I mean, now looking back on it, it's like, well, how in the heck could I have had a learning disability, but also had a 163 IQ? That doesn't even make any sense at all.
Sure.
And then this whole special education program thing, this is congruent with most of the SSP assets that we have either watched interviews for or even talked to in person.
What I mean,
Yeah, a lot of us,
they all had suggested disabilities for learning issues or so forth. Is that what you mean?
No, I'm saying that they were also implemented into the special education program at a young age.
What they did was they put gifted kids in special ed so that they could sneak them out of school, because that's the part that when you said awakening, there was never any awakening. There was now I understand what was going on.
Yep.
When I watched Cosmic Disclosure, the original one that CG did, and I know people have said a lot of stuff about CG, but this is the thing that cemented it for me, is when he was talking about the white school bus coming to pick him up from elementary school. I remember the white school bus coming to get me, and it would take me different places. And I was like, oh crap, I'm part of this. And then I started researching everything I could find. And I knew that I had a partner that I worked with, but I thought it was a platonic friend, because I'm used to, I had all these big brothers, little brothers on the police department. They were my brothers. It was platonic. It's so funny.
I get it.
So I thought this is what I was looking for. Like, I was gonna be like, hey man, what's up? And then we finally find each other, because I spent a couple of years going to different conferences, and I went to ECETI, and I back at the Lionsgate, you brought up Lionsgate conference in 2019, and I thought, I'm going to go sit on the ley lines and ask to meet this person, whoever it is. And if I'd had a name or a face, they wiped me so hard that I couldn't remember, I could have found him a long time ago, because I had access to all the databases. But besides, I don't need a database. All I needed was a name. I could have,
I would have found her a long time ago if she was actually somewhere in the vicinity of where I lived, because I did remember what she looked like. I had a perfect image of her face. I had a perfect, the whole description of her body and her shape and everything. I knew that front to back. In fact, when I was 7 years old, I awakened from a dream, and I immediately went to my brother and said, "It's in the S's, Dennis." I said, you gotta hear me out, and you gotta hear me good, because I have to remember this. It's the most important thing, and it's going to help me find her.
Okay,
it's
so
in the S's,
yeah,
and this has got to do with the programs, and that's all I really had at the time. So I held on to that for 33 years.
That's pretty fascinating. I'm so happy that you guys found each other, Frank and Susan. I mean, seriously. Yeah. I think
I didn't even know I was looking for my husband. I didn't know I was looking for my husband. I thought I was looking for a platonic squad mate that was going to help me recall my memories. I knew as soon as I saw him, I would remember everything. And when I found him, we did a FaceTime, and I was expecting him to be my age, so I felt kind of weird, because they've time displaced us too. And because everywhere I was going, I was looking. I knew I'd recognize him. And the first time we FaceTimed, I was kind of like looking down. I was like, man, why'd I have to show up like this?
And I was telepathing her too during that time. I was like, in this FaceTime, I'm like, just look up at me. I know you want to look up at me. I need to see your eyes because this is going to tell me right away, and we're both going to know.
Yeah.
And finally she did. And it was just like
That's
this explosion
so
of emotions. And
Okay,
It
for
was
those
weird
that are
because people knew I was
I
looking.
don't know
for it.
what we're really talking about
Yeah.
because I feel like we're not being clear. What is a divine counterpart? So you were using these. Okay, so for those that are listening that are not aware, because I know I have some new subscribers that may not be familiar with what
sure.
the soldier program is, what divine counterpart means, what Nacht Waffen, Solar Warden, all these words that we're using that probably a lot of them may not be familiar with. Some people, but not,
Sure.
So can we just be a little bit more, share a little bit more and clear message of what that means?
Okay.
So you
As
get
far as
taken as a child. We'll start
as
there.
far as I understand it, we were already pre-selected for these programs from birth.
Okay.
It was either based on our blood type or a family lineage.
Okay.
And what I understand is that, and it's congruent with our own memories and everything we've been able to sit and discuss with one another for the last 2 years, is that we've had several lives together in the past. And I'm talking about, it's not just going back, 1,000 or so years. We're talking going back millions of years.
There's more than two.
Wow.
And I mean, there's a lot of other
That's a
divine
big
counterparts out
statement
there
when
as
you're
well.
talking millions, because a lot of people can't fathom, remembering 10 years ago. So how do you remember?
We can at least go back. All right. I mean, I know we can go back further than this, but I mean, just for the sake of this particular conversation, we can at least go back as far as Atlantis. Okay. Somewhere in the ballpark of 12 to 13,000 years ago. We both remember Atlantis intimately. And we remember the fall of Atlantis, and that we were both together throughout that time, and then throughout many other lives, since then. So that's part of why we were selected for these programs. The other part of why we were selected for these programs is because we have natural abilities. We can naturally manipulate space-time. We can naturally telepath. We can naturally just do all kinds of different types of telekinetic, any kind of clairaudient, clairvoyant. It's all tied in with this. And it's like some of it's blood memory, but some of it goes further than that. And it has something to do with who we are spiritually. So on a higher spiritual level, we come from a different realm of existence, basically, that's in a higher density. And that's why they want us, basically, because we have all these abilities. And if they were able to trigger these abilities through, say, a satanic ritual abuse or a form of torture, some of these films that you see where these people are being made into super soldiers, like you think about, let's see, what's a good example? Deadpool, his character, when he goes through a bunch of torture, and
we have a little bit
what
of
it
a
does
lag.
is
Sorry.
they went ahead and they actually implemented those gifts into those people, whereas in our case they actually needed to bring them out from a natural genetic standpoint. So they tortured us and ripped us apart and put us back together in regeneration tanks, which exist. They can regenerate anybody that's been dead for, I think it's up to 4 months. Okay. So yeah, I mean, they put us through quite a bit to bring out these different abilities so that they could exploit them. So when we go and battle, say, you know, like a Draco reptilian is a very large and to most human beings, they're terrifying creatures. You know, they're huge, they're hyper intelligent. You know, you're talking something along the lines of a 300 IQ or better, and you know that's extraordinarily intimidating. You know, they're telepathic, and they can actually implant memories and extract memories from people. So, you know, we had to either battle beings like this or work alongside them. So, you know, we had to actually be able to, you know, telepathically communicate with these beings without being completely intimidated by them, because they're like a lot of people will say that, well, the Draco reptilians, which are pretty much the controllers of this world, they their energy, their vibration, just being in their presence, it's like it's too much for some people to handle. I mean, some people, they can't handle it at all. Like if they're in the same room as these beings, like they're in a state of anxiety that is off the charts, and they'll start having heart palpitations. And I mean, some people have even gone into cardiac arrest over it. So, you know, they needed people that were reincarnates of these higher dimensional beings that could be utilized in these programs. Now, LOC, which is Lunar Operations Command, is one of the many moon bases that are on the dark side of the moon. There are ancient bases there, and there are some a little bit more recent, as in, you know, within the last 80 years or so. Pardon me. Now, that's not the only thing that's even in this solar system. A lot of people are unaware that there are 39 different planets and planetoids in this solar system alone that are inhabited or partially inhabited. And now that's
I'm not aware
going
of
to
39. I definitely know that there are other planetary systems that are inhabited from my own experiences. For sure, I know that. But I didn't know there was 39, and that's interesting. How did you come up with that number? Just curious.
There's been several other experiencers that have actually given that number. Was it Peterson that said it, or was it? I'm not sure. I'm trying to remember. It was
That's okay.
it was actually a very
It
was a very credible whistleblower that actually said the same thing, and it was congruent with what I remember. I mean, Susan and I actually were a part of a special type of operations where we would do acquisitions. We would go to different ancient sites, like some of the ancient libraries on some of the more derelict like planets that really are, you know, not really so inhabited anymore. Some of them, you know, like out in the asteroid belt.
They may be being used for training sites, or like you said that they're not really inhabited. So I'm thinking the first thing that just came to my mind is they're being used for training super soldiers. Maybe they have like.
Well, a lot of the super soldiers are actually trained in the DUMS here on Earth.
Well, I believe that too. Yeah.
I mean, they do some of the training on Lunar Operations Command and over on Mars at Ares Prime, or you know, as part of Mars Defense Force, the MDF. And I mean, we remember serving on Mars Defense Force. I mean, there's been times where I had to take Susan in pieces back to get her regenerated when one of the gigantic spiders there actually gnawed her legs off.
That was a lot of fun. Is that time?
You remember that, Susan?
Yeah, I couldn't even see the spider. It was underneath me, And I just, like, the ground started shifting. It was sandy, and I just went down into a hole, and it got my legs. I was just trying not to shoot my legs off, but it got them anyway.
She's firing at the ground. And I actually, my superior officer at that time, which I'm pretty sure I know who he is, and I think he knows who he is too. We've actually been in contact, but I ended up killing him because he gave me a bunch of shit about using my tourniquet to save Susan, to keep her leg from bleeding out, because we all had our own tourniquet that was as a part of our medical kit that we carry with us. And I put her tourniquet on one leg, and then because the other leg was gone too, I went ahead and pulled my tourniquet off. And he's like, what are you doing? Why are you wasting that? You know, we can regenerate or whatever and everything. And I was like, just shut up. He's like, that's an order, soldier. And I was like, just shut up. I was sick of this conversation, you know? And yeah, but
I think it's fascinating that you're able to remember this kind of detail, Frank. Well, both of you. Yeah.
I just remember those spiders had these orange, or like dots, and they almost lined up so they look like a smile. So while they're eating you, they were also black with this orange smile. So it was.
Yeah, it actually looked pretty diabolical.
Yeah, it was pretty diabolical.
Honestly.
Well, I've heard other people talk about these spiders, and even the late great Max Spears, I would call him that. He's definitely, I give so much, him and James Castle, even though there was discrepancies with some of the, you know, with what each of them would say. Some you know, they would challenge the other or whatever, and some of the information that they shared. But anyways, he mentioned about the spiders, and even in, you could see them come through, like in the walls or crawling on the, you know, like not big huge ones like what y'all are referring to, but like these crawlers. I forgot what he called them. I never experienced that, but I've heard people speak about it. If I did have the experience, I don't remember.
There was another thing that was in there. It wasn't spiders. It was something like those triple things from Star Trek. Remember?
What you talking about? The tribbles?
They were kind of like that. That, remember, they were in one
Similar.
place, and they would eat people. They'd hide in there, and then yeah.
Oh yeah, because the smaller
they would
maybe the size of a cat. On the biggest ones are about the size of a cat. The smaller ones were like maybe the size of like an almond or a walnut or something. And they would hide on the ledges of the inside of some of the buildings and that. And it looked like this little funky fuzzy creature. And if it would wake up, all you see is teeth. I mean, they were
nasty.
They were real nasty.
What would you say to people that are like, okay, what they're talking about is just out of like crazy, and where are they getting these memories from? Could they be being, you know, memories being inserted? Are these true memories? So forth. Like, what would you say to those people that may question the validity or you know?
Well, how can the two of us remember the same thing when most of our lives we've been separated by over 1,000 miles? Yeah. We didn't know each other.
I'm not saying that I don't. I am aware of these kinds of anomalies that take place in people's lives. So, but for the listeners that are not even aware of Super Soldier or My Lab or any of these other projects, programs, mind control, any of it, may seem so far-fetched to them that, you know, they would question our sanity, should I say.
Well, certainly. And I was going to get to that, actually, is that we're not the only ones with these memories. I mean, we're talking about, and there's an entire community of people that are waking up with these memories or have had these memories for a long time, and weren't making any sense of them. And then just somebody else actually was coming up and saying something about it, and they're like, wait, I remember that also. There's got to be something to this. I mean, we're talking about, you know, some. And, you know, inside of this community that we actually have been a part of, at least for the last 2 years, there's at least 60 of us that remember the exact same course of events, the same types of creatures, the same types of technology. I mean, up to and including, you know, the description of the suits, the description of the types of glass pad, you know, almost like iPad kind of tech, but much more advanced, where it was just, it's actually transparent.
Yeah.
The ships, the description of the ships is definitely a big telltale too, where Susan and I actually were the only ones to actually remember the specific type of technology the two of us congruently remember of this dragon type ship. It almost looks kind of like a you remember like a Klingon warbird type of craft. They've got like the wings on it and everything, but the nose on it on these particular craft was actually a little bit more pointed and down.
Well, like the Concorde craft in the 70s.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But
I know exactly what you're talking about with that. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, when Susan and I first started talking, we were actually going through different memories, you know, back and forth together. And she's like, "Do you remember the ship, the Dragon craft?" And I was like, "Wait, you're talking about the white craft that could morph into like any other color?" And we both said it at the same time. When it had the scales on the outside of it that would flutter back and forth and make this metallic kind of sound.
Like metallic dominoes, because I know it was biometrically connected to me, because I had already somehow, like, I don't know if it telepathically started or how it was chipped to me, but I know when I came up on the flight deck, it was already warmed up because the scales were fluttering when I went up there.
Well, you sent me a photo of a craft that was in your backyard.
That's a different one.
That's a triangle craft. We were talking to somebody else that had Morris memories, and she's not really public about it, but she's connected to the Canadian Prime Minister and told me she was targeted. And I was like, oh, you know, whatever. And then the next thing we know, there's 2 triangle ships in the backyard within 2 hours of talking to her. Because, you know, when you're talking about that stuff, sometimes it really takes a lot out of you. My head was hurting really bad. So I went and took an Epsom salt bath. And then I was sitting on my bed and I was doubled over. I was like, oh my God, what the hell's going on? I felt like somebody had me on a rack and was ripping my intestines out or something. I was like, ah. And then I heard, if you're targeted, get up and move rooms. So trying to get my clothes on, and I went to the back bedroom, and that's when shoot up.
Yeah, that's when she was able to snap that picture.
Won't let me do share screen. But that's when that ship with the weapons platform was on in the backyard, and they always send 2 ships. So I don't know. Yeah, who are we that we need 1 triangle ship each?
Yeah, I mean, and that's not even the only time that we get targeted. There's been multiple times that these craft have shown up in the sky over our home and hitting us with, you know, some type of microwave or an energy type of weapon, which you can Google these types of energy weapons. Directed energy weapons are a very real thing, and the patents for them have actually been declassified.
Oh, they're very real. They try to blow my heart up.
Yeah.
Yep.
Literally, I flew up out of my bed. They hit me right in my heart, and I literally, it felt like my whole heart was just going to combust. And I got up screaming for my brother. screaming Salem, and it was not nice. And they would hit me in my legs and make me like fall to the ground and stuff when I was being targeted pretty heavily.
They were doing that in my bed when I was at home on the East Coast, and I didn't even realize. I thought there was something wrong with my heart, and I had a heart monitor on. And at the same time, it's another thing with divine counterparts. We feel each other's pain. The same time, he thought he was having a heart attack, and he was in the hospital.
Yes.
You know, 1,000 miles away.
Yeah, we've also tracked a lot of dates where we were both experiencing something very similar or exactly the same thing at exactly the same time throughout our lives.
Yeah.
Here and now.
Yeah.
And not just limited to this like heart attack scenario, but yeah, it's very much like that. But I guess you were asking about the like what is Nacht Waffen. Now, Nacht Waffen is part of what was originally from what I understand, it was a German program. And the Germans didn't lose World War II. They were put under contract through Operation Paperclip, and a lot of the Nazi scientists and doctors were actually brought over here to the United States, and that's when a lot of the 3-letter and 4-letter, and even some cases 5-letter agencies were incepted here in the United States.
Right.
Why? Because they were started by these doctors and scientists, the very same ones.
Well, they're still here, right?
Yes.
Yeah, the OSS only changed names, and the OSS is who brought in all the Nazis. So the OSS is actually a Nazi organization.
Right.
The same one that's responsible for the cocaine and crack epidemic.
Yeah. So.
I didn't know that. Can you elaborate on that a little bit? Because I do know that. I mean, I remember.
They didn't get money for their black projects, and they didn't want to tell about what they were doing off-world and whatever other heinous things they were up to. So, you know, when they were, you know which agency I'm talking about, they were trafficking cocaine and heroin through the Vietnam War.
Import agency. Yeah.
And then they were using, and as a matter of fact, on the SSP assets, they were using their parents to traffic the drugs.
Yes.
And I don't know how that worked out, where the parents were trafficking the drugs, and then they were taking us as, sonic super soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
And like they're going after bloodlines. With us, we're both O positives that were born from O negative mothers, and they really liked that because my mom didn't get a Rogam shot. They figured if you can survive that, you can survive anything. And I think that's why a lot of the O positives don't have as many immune issues as, like, say, an A positive would that have been in the programs. And we're also Tribe of Dan, which, traced my bloodline.
A video I'm going to send you a video that Max Spears did that he specifically talks with Miles Johnson, explaining the different blood types and what the different programs they're used for, and how from the O positive, O negative, A positive, all of it. I'm gonna send it to you because it's pretty fascinating. He talks about the power and the force behind the combat, and what O positive, what specific gifts they have, or combat gifts, so to speak, spiritual gifts, as opposed to the negative, be it A, B, or I think, A and B, and then O, right? That's all the bloodlines.
Right.
A, B, and O.
Yeah, and the O negatives are good at short speed things, whereas O positive is really good at distance. So
that's right.
If you want a distance runner, you get the O positive, but since I'm O positive of an O negative mother and still carry the O negative as a recessive, by both, so they want.
And this all ties in.
I don't know what my mother is. I'm glad that you're telling me this. Thank you, because I'm gonna see if I can find out what her blood type was. That's interesting.
But like Tribe of Dan, you can if you have a Griffin. I was following Chris West, and she does a lot of Bible things where she'll she can trace the bloodlines, and she was saying if you had a griffin in your family crest that you were tribe of Dan. I happen to have a griffin, and I showed her mine. She's like, oh, you're tribe of Dan. We have natural remote viewing with bilocation abilities, and that was another reason they took us, because they can't teach that.
And that's something
I
that
definitely have
we actually do here.
photographic memory. And I probably do more remote viewing than I realize. I've never done it officially. Like, I just can recall things when it may be, I don't even know if it's called remote viewing. Maybe it's just photogenic memory. I don't know, but
it's, well,
I'm hot. Sorry.
Remote viewing is a lot like astral traveling, but you're activating your kundalini and your soul's, like, if you know how to watch people, like the first time I met Frank in the Here and Now again, I saw him do it, and I see his daughter do it, because you'll just see their spirit leave, and I saw his come back in. They just move a little bit, but I can tell they're remote viewing, and I didn't know that you could actually see it, because I know I can go, but you have to be careful, because I told her, I said, just because you're thinking about somebody doesn't mean you can go there, because you're violating their privacy.
Yeah.
And we caught her doing it. She didn't realize I didn't realize that's what I was doing until a couple of years ago, when a former Navy intelligence officer who I was taking platform mediumship from told me to stop what I was doing. And he came up on stage and he says, you're remote viewing. And I was like, okay. All right. Here's just another confirmation of how I do that. I was like, this is the way I always see.
And it's something that we just do it. It's
interesting.
It just comes naturally to us. Susan's actually said that I popped up in the hallway as almost like a ghost of myself.
Like a ghost.
And
you know what
I was actually driving
though?
home from school.
Have you, I'm listening to you, but now you just triggered something. Have you ever felt like you were in somebody else's body looking out their eyes? Have you ever had that? Like,
I've done that. I did it when I was a cop, and I could find people that way, like people that were missing. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Still,
yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, that's what my lieutenant used to ask. He's
that.
like, here, I'm giving this warrant to you. We can't find this guy. And he's like, I don't know how you do it, Susan, but because I don't know. I can see him and smell him in the other officers. I just didn't tell him. Never mind.
Yeah, we can just naturally do a consciousness transfer, really. I mean, just remotely.
Yeah.
Some people are more adept. So, if you end up jumping into them or whatever, they'll push you back because they know. But, I mean, there's quite a few that have no concept at all.
I have to shake.
Did we do that as Licht Soldaten or that super soldier? When we could watch, when we were on the battlefield, if we got killed, they would get us to take our soul and walk it into another body, so we would have a shell to keep our soul in. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know this doesn't even make sense, but I remember that. I'm not sure if that was Licht Soldaten, the light soldiers, or if that was super soldiers.
The Licht Soldaten actually had all of these natural born abilities. We were already capable of doing these things.
What is that, Frank?
The light
I've
soldiers.
never heard of that.
They are light soldiers.
Like we would physically turn, when people say put on their armor of God, like I will see that when I do Reiki with really religious people that are scared, when they get energy work. But we literally, like the face almost becomes indistinguishable, the eyes and everything. I mean, you can see the profile, but we turn into this being of fire, and we have weapons like fire. We look like fiery avenging angels. It's kind of scary looking, to be honest.
Shields and swords of light, basically. Brilliant, like a star. Only in the shape of a being.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's at least that's so the story goes. But we have a lot of memories of being in that setting where we were fighting wars. with, you know, very dangerous beings. I mean, not just limited
some would
to.
suggest that everything that, well, I've heard different, you know, I don't believe anything and I don't discount anything. Like, I try to stay neutral. Like, I shouldn't say I don't believe. That's not true. That's the wrong way to. I don't attach myself to certain information, nor do I discredit. Like, I'm open to the possibility of everything that we all are saying. But then from a higher perspective, a spiritual level, we understand all of this is taking place within ourselves. It's not out there somewhere, right? So it's my understanding, and I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just sharing with you information that makes sense to me, that we are living multiple timelines, multiple lives, and multiple timelines, so multi-dimensional lives, and even our past lives are gosh, I can't think of the word. Our past lives are like parallel lives, that we are still living in those timelines, still playing out. Would you agree with that? Is my question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. We are multidimensional beings living in a flesh and blood experience.
Okay.
Without a shadow of a doubt. And as far as the Licht Soldaten are concerned, we've actually had affirmations, total confirmations from other assets that actually are public right now. I just got permission actually to drop his name. I don't know if you're familiar with Johann Fritz.
Familiar. Mm-hmm.
We've been in contact with him on several occasions, and we were actually seeking some answers, because we were talking about these memories as these light soldiers. I mean, and I didn't really actually have the name quite right. I think I said it was Licht Soldaten or some other close variation of that, and he actually clarified it for us and affirmed that what we were remembering was actually completely that. Because Johann himself was in the Licht Soldaten program. He was Licht Soldaten. We fought alongside one another. He and his divine counterpart, actually, they just met not long ago, and they reconnected. And it's been a heck of an experience, because now we're not the only ones.
Yeah. So am I lagging? I think I'm lagging. I don't mean to talk over top y'all. Am I lagging when I talk? Are you getting it? No? Okay.
No, it seems pretty straightforward.
Okay. So is the divine counterpart something similar to, say, twin flame? Is a twin flame a real thing, Susan?
I mean, that one.
I hate the term twin flame, because I think it's a CIA psyop to partner a narcissist with an empath to destroy the empath. And when you meet your divine counterpart, it's I can't even describe, because see, I thought this was the part that really threw me. I thought I was looking for my platonic squad mate, and I FaceTimed Frank the first time, and when I look at him, I get this love bomb, and I'm like, I look down, and I got a surname on my smart suit, and I'm just looking down going, I don't know what to do with this. I don't know what to do with this. I don't even know what to say. So I didn't say anything. So I put him in this group because of other SSP people, just to vet it out. But I knew I was married to him. I knew that this feeling of love that he sent me, that knocked me out of my chair, I'd never felt from another human being before in my life. And I also didn't know what to do with the fact that I had this feeling of love more than for anyone else that I ever met in my life, which was kind of terrifying, actually, because like it was, I hate to say it, Emma, it's Trump told your own newborn baby. That's how shocking it was. And it's actually kind of like embarrassing to say that, to be honest, because I was just looking for my memories.
Well,
and then you gotta remember that, and then you're like, now I understand why love wasn't what I thought it was here, and why I've always been single, because I'm like, you don't know what love is. I know what love is, but this is not love. Bye.
Yeah, and it was very much like that for both of us. I already knew that we had been married in these programs and that we were a unit, you know, not just you know, married counterparts that, you know, that loved each other or cared about each other or had any kind of, you know, intimate relationship. It was so much deeper than that. I knew that we had telepathic communications and that we had been actually communicating with each other, you know, in higher realms,
different dimensions,
and in different dimensions on a regular basis. And
in meditations, I thought he was my guide that was popping up in my meditations.
I knew it was her, but I'd been through so much that I just had to make sure. So I kept, like, you know, drilling her for different bits of information and asking her different questions without going, you know, saying too much, you know, to see if she'd remembered anything. And then she's like, I remembered this. And, you know, she was real careful too at first. And after we went back and forth for, I don't know, probably the better part of a month, I'd say, it was like, it's her. Like, I mean, I already knew that it was, but, you know, you just have to make sure, because.
Well, you can obviously see, Frank, you know, and Susan, the joy that you guys have and the love that you have for one another. It's very obvious and evident to me. And I think that's so beautiful and good for y'all. I mean, because we hear a lot about, I'll say, I mean, I went through a love bite scenario myself where my you know, if we want to use a false twin, if you even want to use those words,
sure.
False twin, supposedly preparing me for my true twin. I think they're all, you know, soulmates, and you have different lessons that need to be learned, or karmic, you know, karma that needs to be played out and forgiven. You know, I'm still putting pieces together myself, but, you know, when I see people like y'all and couples like y'all, and the real love that is obvious between you two, it gives hope to other people that are a part of these programs that don't know who their counterpart is, that haven't met their, you know, their partners and so forth. Of course, I'm not looking. If it happens,
well, I didn't even know I had one. Every time somebody mentioned that word, you know, the term twin flame, I would shut the live off, the YouTube off. It was actually quite irritating to my sensibilities too when you hear that. I still hate that term.
Well, some people say it's twin flame is a real phenomena, and then some say no. You know, either karmic, I mean, or soulmates.
What we experience is extremely deep, but if for anybody else that's waking up to this and having memories of this that are congruent with what we're saying, I want to give a word of caution, okay? Because these memories are going to be very triggering, and when you meet your divine counterpart, it's going to trigger very terrible and dark memories that you may not want to remember. But if you want to know about who you are and what your true purpose is, and you really want to get to the, you know, to the nuts and bolts of what's really happening in your life, just all I can say is just strap in and hold on tight, because it's going to take you for a ride. Last summer, we remembered things that
we wish we never remembered.
They're very awful, terrifying, and very, very damaging memories. And we actually had to relive them, because it was almost like, you know, going through it all over again, because, you know, these memories had been laying dormant inside of our subconscious for probably the better part of decades at the very least. So, you know,
did you get assistance
you gotta
for
be,
being able to? Did you get assist? Have y'all? So y'all have not gotten regression, correct? Neither one.
no,
of you.
we triggered each other's memories.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's slowed down now, but initially when we got together, I mean, we just sit there and look at each other, and we could remember different lifetimes. Like we remember Atlantis. I remember something else that looks like ancient Egypt, ancient Sumeria. We remember fleeing from what we think's Lyra with reptilians chasing us, and yeah.
it's not limited to that though. I mean, we had at least, I mean, we literally had to sit down, and we've got notes, and we've been compiling information about our congruent memories for the entire last 2 years that we've been together. And I mean, not only is there patterns in it, but we've counted at least a dozen different what would be contracted time frames where we were taken out of this time and then you know, brought into one of these programs where we served together for 20, 40, or 60 years, and then what is called and back, which when you come back, they actually will age regress you, completely wipe your memory, and then reinstall you as if you had never left in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So when, you know, when you actually discuss this, you know, other people are like, well, you never left. So what are you talking about? Yes, we did. We absolutely did. And we're not the only people that remember these types of scenarios where we were taken, served 20 years or more in a program, and then they pull the trigger and they say, well, you're done with your 20 years of service or your 40 years of service or whatever we were contracted for. And then they would rip us apart, you know, as counterparts, age regress us back to the age that we were when we left, reimplant the memories of where we were at that point in time, and completely rip all the other memories, basically blank slating is what they call it, and then reinsert us back into the timeline where we are here and now. And when these memories actually start to come full circle is when these timelines actually collapse.
Yeah.
Meaning that 20 or 40 year term of service has already been completed, and it comes back in, and now we're regaining these memories. In some cases, you know, you kind of remember bits and pieces as you go along, because these timelines are actually running alongside of this one. So right. You're going to get bits and pieces from those different, you know, the memories that are playing out as they play out. But we were actually not just time displaced this way. We were actually time displaced in some sort of segregation. I don't know how they did it or exactly what they did, but she and I actually originally grew up in the same timeline. We were in the same time frame. We remember like an old schoolhouse back in the 1940s. And we were starting to already exhibit what would be called like meta abilities, where Susan blew the wall out of the class, you know, to the outside with just a telekinetic push. And we were both just sitting in there laughing and having a great time. It's just these little kids in this classroom. And I can remember I had a tornado that I had brought up. I could call the winds. And this is this actually goes back to like a lot of different ancient cultures where they say you could call the winds.
The teacher looked like
And it
she
goes
was
back to
gonna
Tribe
pee
of Dan.
herself. Because
Okay,
she-
so Max,
I blew
yeah.
the corner of the classroom out behind her, and she was just kind of, you know.
And we were laughing. And next,
talked a lot about the Tribe of Dan, Max Spears. If you
Yes.
guys haven't gone through his, I would highly recommend. I mean, I revisit them occasionally. You know, every few years I might go back and like listen because it always jars more stuff. But you were mentioning about the 20 and back. Some people, you know, I mean, I mentioned it to somebody recently who said it's not a thing. But I know that for myself and Christopher Jacobs, I'll tell you, you guys, I would highly recommend if you want to get a session and more clarity. If you ever did reach out for assistance, he's him and Sean Bond. They both are amazing. Yeah. But and I'll have them they'll be on my show on the 9th of August. We're going to have a roundtable, and I'm very excited to do that. But what was I going to say? Oh, so I was told that I went through 2 rounds of 20 and back. And I just remember saying to somebody that they sent to me from the Pentagon that we met on a dating site, but it was really, they were watching me and preparing to, implant themselves in my life because I was coming out of the program. Like I was awakening. And I remember saying, where have I been? Where have I been my whole life? And he walked out the door saying to me, Ida, if I didn't know you were special, I'd left you alone a long time ago. Not like I'm special or anything, meaning, you know, that you are a special case for the military and being used in these programs. And I'm still not clear. I haven't made it my business to dive deep into my own stuff like you guys have, because a lot of what I went through during my awakening was so traumatic. That's why I commend people like yourself to be able to do what you're doing. And again, thank you for coming on my show.
Certainly.
It's I don't think that people realize the stress and I don't even want to use the word fear. I think we're past the fear part. It's not fear. It's like, you know, we want answers. I do. I'll say that. And I know, you know, and it's stressful. It's stressful to have all these flooded memories. I'm so happy that you guys have come back together and you have each other to support one another because it's important. So many people out there, you guys, y'all know this from the groups that you're involved in. There's so many people waking up that have no one to turn to.
Yeah.
And to get support. I mean,
well, it's all very difficult to digest, honestly. I mean, this isn't easy for us. This is not like, you know, some spectacular, you know, awesome space saga that, you know, we want to be a part of. You know, just there's a lot of darkness inside of this. I mean, you know.
Do you want to elaborate a little bit on that? Okay, so maybe you could elaborate for about eight or so minutes, then we'll have probably about 15 minutes left, which I really want to talk about some solutions that you guys recommend, like things that people can do or things y'all do. What are some daily practices and so forth? But and I surely would love to have you back again at some point where, you know, I appreciate y'all's patience, guys. I had a little bit of a tough day, and Susan and Frank were definitely kind and very patient with me, and I appreciate it. So it kind of got rushed in the beginning, but we surely will have, because I'm fascinated by y'all's story, and I'm hoping that this will help the listeners, especially newly awakened or newly remembering, as you say, people that are becoming, you know, remembering more. Go ahead, Frank. I'm sorry. I know you were going to talk about some of the dark. We'll just briefly, just so people have somewhat of an understanding or understanding of some of the darker aspects of being a part of these projects and programs?
Well, like I said, this all goes back to the tribe of Dan, which are actually related to what are a lot of people refer to them as the Anunnaki, but they actually go by Shahami now. Okay, the other aspect of this is that the people that are tribe of Dan are revered as very close to what people consider God or the divine creator. So in these Luciferian and satanic cults, when they actually torture us, they believe that they are punishing God. And I mean, they did a lot of really awful things, not just to us, but to I suppose what would be considered our firstborn. I don't want to even I don't want to elaborate.
Please
on
don't talk
that.
about anything that you feel that is not. Yeah, that wasn't my purpose in asking you. Yeah.
Let's just say that they get off on torture. A lot of the torture was meant to not just punish God or punish us or any of that. It was more along the lines of getting us to exude these meta abilities, these telepathic, telekinetic qualities that we had, so that we would actually become these soldiers of light is basically what it comes down to. But we had to endure very deep-rooted torture that, I mean, use your imagination. And let me tell you,
yeah,
your
but
imagination
a lot of the listeners
isn't
may have
even
no
dark
idea.
enough. I'm sorry to say it, but nothing that you can think of that is absolutely awful, the most terrible thing that you can think of doing to another human being doesn't even touch it. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
But what I will say is that everybody, and I mean every human being on the face of this planet, has the ability to be more, to have telepathic, telekinetic abilities. Everybody has these gifts. They just got to turn them on. Honestly, we're not any more special than anyone else. And inside of all of this, one of the main reasons we're coming forward and actually, blowing the whistle or just sharing our story and what we're remembering is to let any of these other experiencers know that they're not alone.
You're not alone. You're not crazy. If there's somebody you're seeing in the astral in meditation, it might not be your guide. It might be your divine counterpart. Your divine I think you can have many soulmates, but you only have one divine counterpart, because now I'm hearing people having multiple divine counterparts, and I don't actually think that's true, because I don't.
You didn't hit or something?
Hit a certain little bit, but your divine counterparts, the person that you'll remember having many other lifetimes with and living on other planets, because we think we were probably, well, you're the one that told me that. He said we came down from heaven together, but basically, I think we came down from the heavens together, but we're not from
another
here.
world. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't mean that we're aliens. It's just that our souls got trapped in this incarnation circle.
I mean, what is alien? People say aliens. It's alien. It's foreign to us because we don't have memory. When you have memory, it's not alien to us because it's part of the bigger aspect of who and what we are as a multidimensional being, and which does embody or have many different skin suits, so to speak. So, but most
Yes.
From my understanding, most of what is out in, if you want to say outer space, I don't know that there's really an outer space. I've experienced 0 point where there was nothingness. There was nothing. It was just, I've experienced that. And so I know for me, this is just my own perspective, and I'm always open to seeing things from a different perspective, but I know that we could drop down to 0 point, which means that there's nothing. And I also know that we are so expansive that we have an aspect of ourselves in everything because we are part of the,
Yes.
Yeah. So I appreciate what you just said about telling people that they're not alone, and surely they're not. And it's just been the past year that I particular have really opened up to, wanting to have a platform where people like yourself can come on and share, your story and be able to open the door for people to say, okay, no, these experiences weren't so great that we went through, but this is a real thing. And if you have a, memory that there is a platform where you can come and either connect with Frank and Susan. I met them on Facebook. I've been connected with Susan for quite some time now, a few years. And there is support out there. And, some people find out that they were, used to fight against each other. I've heard that. And yeah. And
actually, in some cases, we actually fought other aspects of ourselves in these programs.
Right.
I've heard that from a lot of different insiders where they had an alter fighting another alter of themselves.
I don't remember experiencing
not
that
us
myself.
Specifically, but yeah.
I mean, some would suggest that these, if we want to even say controllers, I don't like to think that anything has control over me. I can always make the decision to leave this body if I choose to. I did it one time, and it wasn't my time, and I wasn't allowed. I was, I came back, and because my time wasn't up, and I was agreed to come here and take care of business, right? Whether it be just playing out my own karmic stuff, because from my understanding, in past lives, parallel lives, like I wasn't, I was part of some ugly stuff. I'll just say that. And I don't really know the details of what that means. I just know that I get some really crazy thoughts sometimes, and I'm wondering where they're coming from. So I don't know.
Probably V2K.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. The voice to skull technologies.
Oh,
there are actually there are patents that are available too that you can actually research. Anyone can.
Well, I definitely know they have that, but I'm like, because it's well, I don't know about voice to skull. I don't know that they're using that on me. I think I'm in touch with myself enough. I know my true essence, the sound of my soul, so to speak, that
Certainly.
They could put that all they want and it would never, but it did drive me crazy. Like, I believe it was just subconscious stuff that was, that was flooding my brain with all these ugly memories. Or, I'd see somebody walking down the road and just think terrible thought of them. I'm like, where is this coming from? It's not even who I am. It's so annoying. You know what I mean?
Susan and I both were getting it. I mean, they really don't do it anymore because when, what was it? Back in July of last year, Susan was rummaging through the freezer for something or whatever, and she came across the. When are you?
I had a bottle of vodka in there. I don't usually drink. I like natural medicine, but so I had some there for the 4th of July in case somebody stopped by. And all of a sudden, I hear this voice going, "Drink the vodka." Start a fight with him about his ex-wife. I'm like, ha ha ha! Very funny. Whoever this guy is with your nondescript accent, and it's always a white guy. It's my inner monologue is me.
Yep.
It is not a white dude with a nondescript, possibly California accent.
Yeah, and
I've never had that. That's why I've heard.
I was like, hey, it's like, hey, Frank, guess what? what the voice, the V2K's telling me now. It's telling me drink this vodka and start a fight with him about his ex-wife. We're like, ha ha ha, very funny mofos.
Yeah. And we would both laugh about it because I would get hit with something like that too. And they'd be like, argue with her about, this, I don't even remember it anymore because we were just, it was so stupid,
God,
it was like,
so,
wow, you guys are pathetic. And they'll loop it and they'll loop it again and again and
like
again.
A broken record.
And you're just like, man, can you guys get any more pathetic? And I'll bring it up to her or she'll bring it up to me and we'll just sit and laugh about it. Like, wow, these people really, they're really ridiculous.
They kind of gave up on it because you could literally hear them out loud. And what was it? One of the first days.
So how do you, so you think that so when you say voice to skull, are you saying that they like project frequencies in the brain to cause you to have certain thought forms?
Yeah,
how is it that you're hearing it in a different like accent and tone then?
What do you think that 5G is? 3G, 4G, 5G, and certain types of directed energy weapons have this capability where they can be either, I mean, heck, they could do it from a van down the street and aim,
I get that,
aim the signal at your head.
How are you hearing it different in a different accent and like a male
It
just depends on who it is that day.
It depends on who it is, but it always sounds like a white guy because they were hitting us when like we were trying to sleep and I'd get hit in the head and I hear some white guy and they were describing what we were doing in bed and it wasn't very funny because it went on for a couple of weeks where they kept hitting us in the head with frequencies and you just feel like your head was going to implode. And it was extremely painful. Shot down your necks. You're just like, oh. It was really bad. Mm-hmm. This is what they were doing to the Cuban embassy too. But that 3-letter agency that starts with a C that also dropped the cocaine and crack in the city streets is also the same one that does this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Isn't that something? I mean, I grew up. I would have graduated in '86 and. Cocaine was part of my past, part of my programming. And I was told actually by Peter, the insider, that they used cocaine to get me to go on missions. And it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, I'm
probably because it makes people think they're invincible. Why not?
Yeah.
I mean, they used speed in World War II for the pilots.
Well, from my understanding, cocaine opens up your crown chakra. So does Adderall. Like when I came off the drugs, of course, it's been many years now, but, I'm not embarrassed or ashamed to say that I had these. I mean, they got me when I was young. The first time I got high, I was 6 years old. Yeah. 6. Wow. Yeah. My brother gave me marijuana and Anyways, the point, and there's many people, I thought I was, my story was there's so many youngins that get started on drugs and alcohol at such a young age, and I've lost loved ones, friends, behind drugs and alcohol, and that was a tough thing for me when I awakened and realized that it was our own government that was putting it out on the streets, and they claim to be set up all these drug and Max Spears talks about this a lot, where these drug and alcohol programs are programs.
Yeah.
For you to go in to get reprogrammed, to be sent back out. And then, I found out in Montgomery County in Maryland, I don't know about other states, but if you go into a drug and alcohol program, they are required to diagnose you with a mental illness before they release you, which gets you into the hands of the psychiatrist and the mental health, right? And then they put you on all these medications so that people don't wake up and ever become aware of who and what they are or what they've been involved in. And those things are changing. Good things are happening. And for people that are going to be watching this, we may not have, listeners for the live, which is kind of common. Usually they'll go onto my YouTube and watch, or on Soma Fusion. So I'm sure that there will be plenty that are going to watch this and hear something that you guys have shared that's going to to at least give them, either plant the seed or help them to know that there is support out there, and maybe trigger something in them where they may have an epiphany of some sort, where they say, oh, well, they've shared this and I remember having an experience like that. Maybe they'll reach out to you. I know, Susan,
Sure.
you do do you do sessions for Reiki, long distance?
I
So,
do. I do distance holy fire Reiki sessions.
okay, because I
on
know
Zoom.
that Katie has put your website information on the promotion page, on Facebook, and I will make sure that it gets we post it underneath in the comments section. If anybody's interested in reaching out to Susan for a session, please contact her. She does this full time. This is her life work, and she's highly psychic and intuitive, and so is Frank, and you may be able to connect with them and get the help that you need. I mean, my hope is, I'm glad that we were able to have this more like a conversation. I'm not the best interviewer, and I'm okay with saying that. I'm new at this, but I like to have open dialogue. And, because things come to my mind, and of course I'm curious, so I'm going to ask questions. You guys are amazing, and I admire your courage and your willingness, and your being adamant to get this information out and be in service to people. That's important. I think that's amazing, and more people, everyday people that have been using these products. We see these big platforms, right, that they're out doing these talks and traveling and this. And why are you laughing, Susan?
Oh, I just happened to see the live, and one of my clients is being a sweetheart and says I do great energy work.
Oh, wonderful.
That I worked on this.
Okay, nice.
In the chat.
Well,
I didn't realize I was doing energy work too. I've done energy work for friends in the past. And at the time I actually didn't know exactly, the terminology of what I was doing, but I'm not certified like Susan is. So that's why I don't offer those services specifically. But if I'm here with her, I know that we amplify one another's gifts.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, Reiki, being able to do long distance Reiki, you've got to be a pretty powerful person to be able to offer that service. So good for you, Susan. That's awesome. Yeah.
Well, if you're trying to find your divine counterpart, you better learn some kind of energy work, because you're going to have to heal each other, because you're going to go through a lot of trauma, And
Yeah.
I've gotten attacked while I was working on other people and Frank, and we didn't even talk about that time.
Yeah, that's well, I'm hoping to have you guys back on again. I mean, we've got just a few minutes. There is another show after this, so I did tell Katie that we would, end at a certain time. But I would love to have you guys back, and we can,
Sure.
Thanks for saying, everyone, you're good. Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
and
Well,
we can.
I guess we could go for. Is there something you want to share?
No,
Yeah.
I was going to say we can elaborate on certain other aspects later in the future. I mean, if the viewers want to, ask questions or something like that, where we can, try to answer it to the best of our knowledge,
That would be great.
definitely
because,
invite
we
that
did
for sure.
start later than what we had, made the the banner for. So maybe at another time, sometime in September, because I'm kind of filled up for the rest of August, have you guys come back, and we'll have a little bit more structure to it. I say this every show, guys. I appreciate everybody's patience. I'm not I'm not a professional interviewer. I kind of just come as I am and share what I can from my own experiences, and the guests that I invite on, people like Frank and Susan that are well vetted in the super soldier community, are learned and have a lot of recall. I think it's important. I'm not there yet. I'll be the first one to admit it. I'll never claim to have done anything that I don't remember doing. You know, I don't play that game. Like if I don't have experiences or don't remember, I just don't. So when I get people like yourself that do remember and do have recall, and you know, there's like others that are coming, and you're able to help one another have memories. There's some truth to it, guys. You have to, you know, it frustrates me when people say, "Oh, prove it, prove it." Okay, you can't prove that there's God. That's what I say to people. How do you prove that? You look outside, you look into the fire of other people's eyes, you look into their, you know, the light that they hold within them, and we know that we are divine, super powerful beings. And I will not accept anything less than everyone is a divine, super powerful being to me. And I do my best to support people like yourself, and also to give it to my, you know, to connect with people that are supportive of myself too. We're in this together. We're gonna, you know, things are gonna shift on this planet in a real big way. And that's what I came here for. And that's what you guys have done, and you're battling, and the things that you've done so that you could be here for this time to help and assist. And I thank you, and I commend you, and I'll say it again and again. And I just think it's so important. You know, I think it's amazing that you guys have got on with Dan Winters. I have great respect and adoration for him. I think he's an amazing man, and keep doing what you're doing. Because
I have a deep admiration for that man. He's so intelligent.
I love the way how he broke down cranial sacral therapy. I was like,
I've been watching
very
Dan
knowledgeable
Winters
individual.
when he's pretty amazing. And I just watched the one that he did about the Magdala. I don't know if you watched it yet with the lady.
I started that.
He's just awesome. He's done a great service to humanity. You guys are too. We all do some people have, you know, a bigger platform to be able to reach more people, but even just coming together like we are right now, if we're able to reach one person, we've served our purpose. That's what I say. I'm not here to be, you know.
For sure.
Yeah. So thank you both. Thank you. Do you want to share your website, Susan? Please do. And then we'll also make sure it's in the comment section when we upload to YouTube.
It's well, I have one's Divine Boutique on Etsy, and I sell crystals and other things that and protection things. Like I wear a lot of shungite, and I'm always trying to block things because I get overwhelmed a lot.
So that's called Divine Boutique
everyone's thing. I Holy Fire on Etsy.
Yeah, Divine Boutique. You said.
Then I also have.
Yeah, okay.
And then I'm also on the AMTA website, which is American Massage Therapy Association. I think she's going to link that, and that's under Susan Emmart at amta.com, I think.
Okay, good. And I'll make sure it's under in the comment section. Yeah.
Honestly.
Great. Go ahead.
Yeah. I was going to say that as far as things that I can do for people, I'm very mechanically knowledgeable, and I could probably fix anything from anywhere.
He's not
through
kidding.
Through a video chat, even.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
With his remote viewing.
and not only can I remote view what they're looking at, you know, from afar, but also could, you know, help somebody fix anything from just about anywhere at any given point in time. We can both be reached on the Dragon and Phoenix on Facebook. There's a public page. Just put in your request and make sure you answer all of the questions and agree to the terms of the group. Please respect the rules.
There's a private and public page on Fedbook, and then we have one on IG also.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like you guys have your, yeah, well, that's great. I mean, you've got yourself out there, and people have different places that they can find you, and that's fabulous. So I want to ask you, so Frank, if somebody came to you and said, can you remote view this time? Like, if I was to come to you and say, would you be able to see what may have taken place between, you know, let's say July and August of 2013? Would you be able to do that, or?
I should be able to.
It's easier to find a target than it is to find a 2 month.
Yeah, it's easier to find a target, like especially if there's like a picture. That helps. Blind targets are a little more challenging to find, but I mean, I'm not saying that I can't do that. I mean, I know that I was used for remote viewing in some of these programs, so I mean,
I'm just curious to know.
It's a lot like flexing, like riding a bike. You know, if you haven't been on it for a while, you're gonna be a little rusty at first. But yeah, I don't see a problem with you know, picking up and finding, you know, a specific target or whatever. I know that a lot of people ask, well, you know, if you guys have these abilities to remote view, you know, why aren't you, you know, trying to find, you know, missing persons or, you know, like children that are being trafficked and that. And it's not that we aren't doing that. It's that there's a challenge because a lot of the time these people are being moved again and again and again and again because they know that there are remote viewers looking for them.
And they also hit you. Like I've gotten hit with an etheric wrench, and it rocks my head. And I had to get Frank to help me because I don't know, but it looked like when I was doing one session with a guy from Canada, it was weird because something switched and I could see myself like, you know, the kids used to grab when you're couriers and you grab on the back of the truck in the city. Well, when I grabbed on the back of this truck while I was doing this session, this Reiki session, I could also see 2 kids tied and gagged in the back. And when I saw that, and I could see the building we were running in front of, somebody hit me in the head with an etheric wrench, and it hurt like a mofo. I'm not kidding. They can see me looking at stuff, so I have to be really careful when I work on SSP people. I'll get hit, so don't be surprised if you hear me cursing, because they see me coming sometimes, and I have to get angry to fight back.
That, and we also have to honor others' free will. We can't just spy on somebody and look at what they're doing because that's violating their rights. We can't do that. So, you know, there are rules that we have to follow. I mean, that's something that we've discussed with a lot of other assets. And I know Penny Bradley is adamant about this particular aspect of remote viewers, is that you've got to respect the free will of the others, because there are some people in this community of ours that will just pop in out of nowhere while we're
trying to be intimate
with one another, and
well, that shouldn't be happening.
Their faces hanging out in the corner of the room.
Yeah.
It did initially because people were mad we were together, and yeah, you have to push back because you'll see somebody's face hanging up in the corner of your bedroom and they're remote viewing you. Not cool. Yeah,
that's not cool.
And we've been on other interview platforms too. So if anybody's interested in wanting to find out a little bit more about our story or a little bit more about certain things that we've elaborated on in the past, I mean, we've been on Penny Bradley's Nacht Waffen pilot platform. We've been on Misha Johnston's radio show.
Veronica's on this channel.
Yes,
too.
we've also been on Veronica Bartolini's Unchained Hearts.
Yeah.
And I think I know we did Super Soldier Talk with James Rink, but I know that his platform is seeing some serious issues right now because they don't want these stories to be scared, and they're trying to
it's like
deplatform him.
they deplatformed his YouTube, but he's still got his videos. So.
Yeah, he's got it all backed up, so he's gonna find another platform. I know, but yeah, but we've done those interviews
James
as well. So.
I'll tell you, James Bartley, James Rink, Michael Casbolt, or Michael Prince, Max Spears, Sarah Adams, Solaris Blue Raven. These are all people that, you know, well, and others, I could name many more, but those are like when I first start becoming aware of my own experiences and so forth. Those are great people. What's his name? Well, I just mentioned his name and now my mind's going blank. What's his name? Kramer, Randy Kramer. You know, there's so many different people's experiences and so forth, but I think the good news, or if I say good news, well, the great thing about all of it is that not all these people are going to come out saying all these different things and nobody's having these experiences, you know?
Right.
So be respectful to people's stories, guys, and just be patient. And I trust that there's going to come a day in the next, say, few years where we're going to have shows that are going to be explaining a lot of this stuff, and people's stories are going to be shared in a more structured way, and you know, shared with humanity so that they can have a better understanding of what, you know, a lot of us that have been through in these programs.
I remember just about everybody you just listed actually in some capacity in those programs.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you guys are super awesome. So I'll send this to you so you can share it if you want to on your page. I definitely will have it share. I will share it. I'm going to get it uploaded. It probably won't be till tomorrow, but if anybody wants to go back and rewatch it, it will definitely be on Soma Fusion. Thank you both, Frank and Susan. And yep, she shared it in the groups. Thank you, Katie. And you guys are amazing. I appreciate you. So we'll go ahead.
Appreciate you.
And yeah, and we will definitely have Susan and Frank back on in September of this year, or you know, maybe sooner. We'll see how things go with y'all's schedule in mind, and we'll get some more of your information shared for those that are interested for sure. Thank you.
Certainly.
I appreciate
Thank you.
All right. Have a great